It's really rare for me to play a game that initially was not even on my radar that ends up being one of the best games I've played of 2020 and honestly one of the best games of the last decade. What am I talking about? None other than Immortals Fenyx Rising, made by UbiSoft. And yeah, go out and buy this. That's the spoiler for the review. Let's get into it. Before we kick this video off, I want to give a special thank you to UbiSoft for giving me the opportunity to review this game. I was provided a review copy of Immortals Fenyx Rising for the Xbox Series X. So this game looks phenomenal on the Xbox Series X, and it is something that I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to cover, because I'm going to be straight with you guys. This game, now I saw a couple of my other friends, there's some content creators and reviewers, talk about their early impressions of it a couple months ago, but it is not something that it was immediately on my radar. Like, it was on my radar, but it was not fully on my radar like it is now. I've seen trailers before, but like, there's just, look, let's just be honest. 2020 has been a stacked year for gaming. And so it's one of those titles that just kind of, it flew under my radar, right? It just kind of, like, this is the radar right here. It flew a little right under that. And then when I saw the trailers and I saw that they were, you know, there's an opportunity to cover the game, I reached out, hey, and then boom, there you go. Bada bing, bada boom, there's a review code. So I got the opportunity to cover it, and I streamed it. I got to be part of the creators that got to stream it for early access on Twitch, so that was really awesome. And yeah, this game has blown me away. It is funny. The gameplay is one of the best systems I've ever seen since Breath of the Wild. It is incredibly beautiful. It's got a deep backstory and lore to it. And it's an open world, go anywhere, climb anything, do whatever you want to do type of game that just appeals to me. Because you play a couple sandbox style open world games, you feel like you played them all. But this, oh man, yeah, we got to get into it. So with that being said, guys, I'm Mikhail Kasanova, Hawaii content creator, host of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I stream every single week on twitch.tv/Mikhail Kasanova. So catch me over here. If you enjoy the content I put out, make sure you sub to the channel. It definitely helps let YouTube know that, hey, we need to push more content with this guy. So with that being said, we're going to be diving into Immortals Fenyx Rising to see what it is, if it's worth your time, even though I already kind of gave a spoiler away that yes, this game, you need to go out and buy this game. Doesn't matter whether you're playing it on Xbox, Series X, Series S, the 1, the 1X, the 1S, PlayStation 4, 5, or Nintendo Switch or Steam. This is a game you need to be playing. So we're going to dive into that game. We're going to talk about everything, the gameplay, the graphics, the story, the ups and downs, the in-betweens, and everything here and now. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it.
In a world where the gods are powerless to...
Really? Are you kidding me, Prometheus?
Zeus, I am the one telling the story.
You can't start the trailer that way.
Don't interrupt my narration. Typhon, destroyer of gods, is free. To stop him from turning the world into chaos, we must depend on a mortal.
A mortal?
Who washed ashore on a mysterious land. Unprepared for the destiny that awaits her.
Good luck with that.
Zeus, the leader of Olympus and the king of the gods, imprisoned the monster known as Typhon by banishing him to Tartaros. Typhon breaks free and goes on to imprison all the Greek gods and turns all the humans to stone in an act of revenge, with the exception of Zeus, who flees to seek assistance from Prometheus to stop Typhon. Later, we find Phoenix, a stranded Greek soldier washed up on the Golden Isle, unaware of what the fates have in store for them. And that's just about as much as I'm going to cover in this opening for the story. just because there's so much you can dive into. There's so much you're going to enjoy and characters you're going to meet, the other Greek gods and other characters, that is definitely something I think you should go and experience for yourself. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the gameplay, because what's a good story without amazing gameplay? Let's go ahead and dive into that. This game is a joy to play. What does it play like? Well, the most common thing it would be compared to is Breath of the Wild, which, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Or you could also compare it to, Assassin's Creed, or even Middle-earth, Shadow of War, or Shadow of Mordor. Think of it like this. The gameplay is an amalgamation of those 3 or 3.5, 4 titles, with a lot of its own personality and flavor thrown in. It's a true mixed play, as we like to call out here in Hawaii, but it is it's an amalgamation of those. Those are the core games that it's borrowing, or heavily, not so much as borrowing, it's heavily influenced by. So that should give you an idea of what it plays like. As in Breath of the Wild, if you can see it, you can climb it, as this game wants you to explore it and find all the various nooks and crannies, which can lead to new items and equipment, such as new weapons, armor, and even items. You even have the ability to use the wings of Icarus to glide around, similarly to how Link could glide, and even the wings of gliding in Genshin Impact, with it decreasing your stamina bar as you glide. Climbing, sprinting, and double jumping all decrease your stamina gauge, which can be increased as you upgrade your traits in Olympus. Where this game differs from the previously mentioned games, and what makes it more in line with a game such as Middle-earth, Shadow of War, or Shadow of Mordor, and the more recent Assassin's Creeds, is where you gain new abilities that you can unlock with the use of what's called sharing coins. You can gain new abilities, such as the ability to slow down time to fire off an arrow in mid-air, or do a devastating high jump, which creates an AoE, or area of effect, that damages those around you. The gaining of new abilities is all under this game's skill tree. It has branching paths that are more than worth your while. Want to do more damage with your sword, axe, or bow? Then go to the tempering station and temper your weapon to do more damage than normal, with the ability to upgrade your weapon several levels based on how many materials you have to be able to temper them. Worried about what happens if you pick up a new weapon and not wanting to give it an upgrade over the weapon you currently have equipped for fear of wasting resources? That's a mouthful, I know. Well, don't worry, because when upgrading your weapons, all weapons gain from the upgrade, as does all the equipment you gain from helmets and armors and more. Do you prefer the look of a particular piece of equipment over another and want your character to have it instead? Well, you're in luck, because you can change the cosmetic of all your gear to whatever you want Fenyx to be wearing. The same can be said of the customization of Fenyx, because when you start the game, you get to customize Fenyx to be either male or female, and select the skin color, hair, and facial hair, eyes and eye color, scars and tattoos, and also your voice. If you aren't satisfied with how Fenyx looks, then at any point in the game you can go to Mount Olympus and change everything, again at no cost to you. Items and materials are gathered in the fields and from the defeat of enemies and clearing of shrines and opening of chests. Items are mapped to the D-pad, such as health and stamina restoratives and attack and defense buffs as well. Like equipment, you can upgrade and mix your items to gain better versions of what you get. Akin to Assassin's Creed and the Middle-earth games, you can approach situations with enemies by either going in sword swinging, or you can use stealth and do a stealth attack, which will do a lot of damage, if not outright killing some enemies. Of course, if you go this route and do a stealth attack, you will alert the surrounding enemies to your presence and you will need to take them out. Another alternative is to just stealth around the enemies and get to your destination, although by doing that you will miss out on the resource materials that they drop. In combat, you have a ton of ways to approach fighting, such as the direct button mashing approach, or learning the mechanics of the combat system, which are fairly deep and robust. Your center attack is mapped to the right bumper, or R1 on PS4 and PS5, or the R button on the Nintendo Switch, which you can press in rapid succession, which does decent damage and is fairly quick. Pressing the right trigger, or R2 on the PlayStation 4 and 5, or ZR on the Nintendo Switch, has you swinging your axe or hammer, which does much more damage than the sword, albeit at the payoff of having a much slower speed, leaving you open for counterattacks if you aren't careful. You can press the left trigger to aim your bow and fire off arrows if you want to take out enemies from afar. If you aim the bow and press the right bumper after an upgrade that you get later on in the game, then you'll be able to shoot an arrow and be able to guide it with the right stick and also control the speed of it if you have the upgrade to this ability. There's the ability to dodge attacks and double jump to maneuver about the battlefield, which is critical for combat. And the one thing that's crucial to learn is dodging enemy attacks at the last minute will activate a time slowdown similar to Bayonetta's Witch Time ability, where you'll essentially have a few seconds allowing you to get in some quick hits to damage the enemy or reposition yourself on the battlefield. Many of the larger enemies and bosses will use attacks which are unlockable or telegraphed with a red aura or red glow, so dodging last minute is usually your best bet. There's also the ability to parry attacks by pressing the left bumper and right bumper at the same time, which will lead to Fenyx spinning the sword in place for a few seconds, allowing you to parry enemy attacks and even knock back projectiles shot at you, such as the feathers thrown by the harpies or the stone blast from the gorgons or arrows from archers, which will end up hitting them. This is an effective method as you'll not only be able to open up an enemy to attack, such as the shield-wielding centurions, but also be effective against bosses as it can knock them both off guard and off balance, allowing you to beat them down. Enemies also have stun meters based on how many times you hit them or parry their attacks, which when filled up will lead to them being stunned and allowing you to attack them freely until they regain their composure. The more you hit them, the more the stun bar goes down, so make sure you're hitting them with your strongest attacks. Many enemies, such as the Cyclops, have weak points that if you target attacks on that specific area, they'll make them go into a stun state faster and may even knock them over. The game has another thing in common with Breath of the Wild, and it's its focus on puzzle-based shrines and dungeons that have a strong emphasis on physics manipulation and platforming. If you thought the puzzles in Breath of the Wild would have you stumped, then you haven't seen anything yet. Some of these puzzles, I swear, you really have to get creative with them. Like there's this one puzzle where you literally have all these boxes, and when it comes to the boxes, you have to, there are big boxes and there are small boxes, then there are breakable boxes. So you'll see these platforms, ones that'll have like a feather on them or they'll have an anvil, and if you step on them, they activate, but the minute you step off of them, they're no longer activated. So what you're going to have to effectively do is use the smaller boxes on the feather tiled switches and the big boxes or even the breakable wooden boxes on the anvil ones. Now, there's a specific puzzle that you're going to do fairly, early on into the game, where you're going to have to utilize these two boxes that you see. There's this small one. It's two small ones in this big area, and you're going to have to use something similar to Legend of Zelda's Magnesis, where you're going to pick it up and you have to get it all the way to the top. So here's the thing. So trying to get to the top of the room, you would typically either have to climb or glide to one area, glide to another, double jump here, glide here, climb up here, and that's how you get there. But there are switches up there that require you to use the boxes. Now you're going to have to use your ability to pick them up with your god power and throw them. Now they don't break, so you don't have to worry about that, but you're going to have to pick them up. You're going to have to throw them on these platforms. So you got to throw it here, throw it here, throw it here, throw it here, then throw it through a crevice. And then you're going to have to climb up and then throw it through another hole and then put it on the box, push the big box out, pick up the small box, throw it back out, and then keep, you got to place them so that you can activate the switch. And this is for one side of this giant room of a puzzle. Now, the puzzles in Immortals Fenyx Rising, they get tougher as the game goes on. The shrine puzzles get tougher. You really have to creatively think and realize, like, it's very situational based, like you in correlation to your destination, in correlation to your enemies and the environment. everything is so intricately woven together that you really have to get creative as to how you're going to solve it. Do you take out enemies if there are enemies stationed there? Or are they just distractions if you fall off and you attract their attention? Do you lift up a block that, if you're in one of the shrines, you can activate these blocks that will float in the air. And do you hop on it and then use your like magnesius or however, your god power to lift up another block and use the physics to get to where you're trying to go? There's really, the game pushes you, or encourages you rather, to be incredibly creative in how you're going to solve the various puzzles. Now that's just one. There's so many more, but I want to leave that to you guys. But don't think this is going to be a cakewalk to get through. You're going to need to be actively engaged in the game and the puzzle to understand how to solve it. And you're going to have to really survey your environment, because if you don't, well, you're probably not going to solve that puzzle. You want to solve the puzzle, so just be attentive. All in all, just explore the world. Have as much fun as possible, because just like in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you can go all over the map. You'll find various dungeons, both open and hidden, and they all have something special. You get various items and weapons and materials and whatnot. This game just really wants you to be creative, and I really applaud Ubisoft for being for just going at this in such a creative way that it keeps it fresh. No two dungeons or shrines are the same. Same thing with boss fights, and I like that. Now, graphically speaking, this game looks like you're watching a Disney Pixar movie with how well the characters animate and are detailed. Fenyx looks amazing no matter how you customize them. Zeus in particularly looks like a good combination of his God of War as well as his Disney's Hercules incarnations, and Prometheus looks like every bit as run down as someone who's been chained to a freezing mountain for eons would look. Not that I would know what that looks like, but you get the idea. The main villain himself, Typhon, looks intensely intimidating and goes to great lengths throughout the game to taunt and instill fear in you that he is a massive threat to you and the world at large. The world of the Golden Isle is breathtaking. Look, seriously, it is. Take a minute. The world is just gorgeous with the high vistas and rolling rivers and the skies and the sea and the light reflections and the flora and the fauna, the animals, the different things you can do. It actually, look, let me stop here in the graphics department because there's something else I forgot to mention in gameplay that I need to go over here, and that's mounts. So there are various things you can find in the wild. So from elks to deer and horses and more, that if you approach them using crouch and stealth, you'll eventually be able to tame them, and there'll be a mount that you can literally summon just like that by holding the Y button. You can be running, hold Y, boom, near on your mount. Now, they can't go everywhere with you, and you can't make them jump, but you'll jump and hopefully land back on them. But it's really cool how it's implemented. It takes something that, Breath of the Wild kind of tinkered around with, but just busted wide open and goes with a whole different style with it, and I absolutely love it. All right, now back to graphics. Looking at this game in 4K is truly a sight to behold. Honestly, this game, just the world is just so alive. It's so beautiful. There's always something to do and look at. It's just, man, if you can look at this game in 4K, trust me, you will not be disappointed. Now, when it comes to audio, this game's audio is just fantastic. The OST is just spot on for every moment that you're in and the area that you're in, and especially the battle theme for field battles, wraith battles, and boss battles. They're just energy infusing. The voice acting, my God. The voice acting in this game is phenomenal. The voice of Fenyx, be they male, female, or other, sounds as comedically heroic as they come. The back and forth banter between Zeus and Prometheus will have you laughing out loud as Zeus is such an arrogant, idiotic douchebag with some of the worst takes and dumbest hilarious moments in the game. The back and forth between Phoenix and Apollo and Phoenix and Ares will have you in tears, especially when you first meet Ares, as the voice actors really sell that interaction. All in all, there's not much to say here and a lot to take in and love. The audio just sounds great. I mean, there's not much else I can say about it. This is fire. Now, as far as the downsides, look, I gotta keep it $150 with you. The downsides of this game, the performance when the game is running is just fine. I've only run into about a couple instances where the game just crashed and I had to relaunch it, and it could be anything for me, like going through, trying to upgrade weapons or going through my inventory or trying to go to the map, and it's caused the game and randomly at times to just crash. There are even times when I'm in the field and it crashed, and there's a time when I was in the cutscene and the game crashed. I believe that's just going to be fixed with the upcoming patch. I believe that UbiSoft is fully aware of that. And this is me playing there's a day one launch patch that's going to be coming out, but I'm playing pre-patch, and pre-patch that happened, right? One other major thing, I'm just going to mention it because it did happen, and I think it's imperative to speak on it, is the game did cause my Xbox Series X to just crash. And I'm saying complete system shutdown. Like, it went from it was working to it froze up, and the Xbox icon on the Xbox Series X, it was flashing, and then just stopped, and it rapidly flashed, and it powered off, and I had to manually power it back on, and it did its thing, and I was back to playing the game. But that happened once. I just wanted to let you guys know it happened once. It could be the Xbox itself, it could be any of the various updates for the Series X, it could be the game, I don't know. But that did happen when I was playing Immortals Fenyx Rising, and I thought that's something I should share with you guys. So there you go. Other than that, there really aren't any downsides. I didn't run into any issues with the game. Look, as I'm saying, like, the game itself is fantastic. There really aren't any downsides I found to it, other than the fact, now, this is more of a nitpick than anything else, but since there is no leveling system for Phoenix himself or herself or theyself, in the true traditional RPG format where you're fighting, you defeat an enemy, you gain experience points, you don't really gain experience points fighting enemies. So your primary reason for fighting and killing them is either to get some type of item, get materials, or clear an area. Other than that, there really isn't a need to fight them. I mean, you could say the same thing about Breath of the Wild, but I kind of would have liked an experience system where I can level up Phoenix. That's just something I personally would have preferred. But yeah, other than that, there's no downsides. Let's go ahead and get into the wrap up. Immortals Fenyx Rising was a game that completely took me by surprise, as I'll admit that I never thought it would be as good as it is, and honestly, it's one of the greatest games of 2020, which overall has been a stacked year for gaming, as I said earlier. This game could easily be up there with being a strong contender for not only Action Game of the Year, but literally Game of the Year for how amazing this game is. With an amazing cast of characters, an amazing backdrop for a story, with a great plot, insanely good graphics, gut-busting humor, fantastically tight gameplay, and a massive world that is one of the best open-world sandboxes to be explored, Immortals Fenyx Rising is a game you need to add in your gaming collection. And no matter what platform you play it on, just know that you're playing one of the greatest and creative games of the year that won't let you down. The verdict? Buy it. So with that being said, guys, that is the review for Immortals Fenyx Rising. Again, thank you and shout out to UbiSoft for providing me the review code for Xbox Series X to cover this game. I'm very grateful for it. I've had an absolute blast with this game, and it's one I'm going to be playing for a long time. And I think I might even pick it up for the Nintendo Switch just to play it portably. When I'm not at my station, I want to just play it on the go, because I think I've been itching for another game that gives me that feeling of Breath of the Wild. Because look, like Breath of the Wild fever was super real in 2017. You were playing that game like crazy, and you were always going, exploring, finding new things. Everyone had different experiences with it, but the story was lacking, right? Well, I mean, it was there, but it wasn't presented very, theatrically all the time. There's a few cutscenes in the game. Whereas Immortals Fenyx Rising gives me everything that I loved about Breath of the Wild, takes it up to 1,000,000, and adds in so much personality, flavor, and its own substance and style that I just love it. This is a game that I could honestly be hooked on for years. Like, I'm playing it, my wife's playing it, we're both having a very different experience, but we're having a lot of fun discovering things, mutual things we've come across, things we haven't, we're individually only coming across, and trading tips, and me, talking to other creators that are also covering the game. It's just a ton of fun, and it's one that I think you'll honestly love if you actually give it a chance. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. What do you guys think? Do you have Immortals Fenyx Rising? Or is it a game that you're looking to pick up? Is it something that, is it going to scratch that Breath of the Wild itch, or that Assassin's Creed itch, or that Middle-earth Games itch? Is it, whatever. Let's just get the conversation going down below in the comment section. If you want to take the conversation further and talk more in depth about it, take it to Discord. I've got a Discord, links in the description. Anyone's open to join. And honestly, if you really want to support my work, hit the sub button, give the video a thumbs up if you got this far and you've enjoyed it, and share it with someone you think would like it. If you want financially support it, we got Patreon, we got channel memberships. You get to see behind the scenes of things I'm working on, early access to different things that may not come out for weeks or months, and also early access to my podcast. I have the Kasanova Podcast, the #1 podcast in Hawaii, where I interview various people in the gaming industry, tech industry, and voice actors, content creators, and so much more. Various celebrities as well. So if you're looking for that, you can catch that Kasanova Podcast on every major podcasting outlet, as well as I stream on twitch.tv/Mikhail Kasanova. Catch me over there every single week. Brand new streams, fun, good times, and good people, good vibes. All that being said, all my plugs out the way. Follow me on the socials. I'll see it here. And yeah, I had a great time with this game. I'm wrapping it up. Let me know what you think. And that being said, again, thank you to UbiSoft for the review code. And yeah, you guys stay safe, stay blessed. Deuces wild, too sweet. Be the elite. See you in the next one. Happy gaming. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. I really want to say mahalo and gracias for doing so. It is truly amazing that I have people that actually enjoy my content. I mean, you made it to the end of the video, so I assume you enjoyed it. If you didn't, hey, there's a dislike button you can always hit. I know, some people like to do that, but hey, whatever. I just am appreciative of the fact that you came through, you watched it, you got to this point. If you want to do me a solid, go ahead and hit the like button if you really liked it. And if you loved it, go ahead and sub for more content like this. If you want to support my work, we've got channel memberships, we got Patreon, and all that will pop up somewhere on the screen here and linked down below. Your support means a lot to me. If you know someone who would enjoy this type of content, go ahead and share it. That's what matters most. You guys watching it and sharing it with someone who might enjoy it, a friend, who knows. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Mahalo again, gracias, and fa'afatai. I will see you on the next one. Yeah, there's 3 different languages I spoke there. So Hawaiian, Spanish, and Samoan. So gives you a little detail as to what I'm mixed with. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all stay blessed, stay safe, and yeah, happy gaming, happy streaming. Have a good one.